Yeah, bribe him. He likes, he likes your beer.
All right, I'm happy to bribe him. I am not
Well,
against bribery.
Wait with your questions.
For the sake of people who don't know who you are, can you share with everyone who you are, what clan you were sired into, and what you do for BCP?
Excellent. Yeah, I'm Hugh Angseesing. I am based in the UK. Which, I don't know. I think the first mock-up as me as a vampire was a Toreador back in like 2001 or two.
Is that just because of the hair?
Yeah, the hair. So I had the hair. I had a big gap without the hair, but I wore a lot of black and more goth than metal or punk.
Oh, so you should have been Toreador Anti then.
Maybe. I don't really like causing pain to others.
That's fair.
And I do the admin, I do the accounting, I do the logistics, most of the sending, where we use a lot of friends like Jesper to send stuff for us in continental Europe as well, and people around the world like Steve in Australia and Carl in the States. Like we have a little network of people who run shops essentially for us, which is really good. And I try and keep us profitable. So we need enough cash to keep paying our artists and Paradox, and just make sure that works, which was quite good. I'm sure if you talk to some of the others, there's definitely some things I'm less good at. And I'm definitely better at on accountants, so numbers, talking to people, but not really. I don't like organising other people so much, which is we have loads of spreadsheets of just random bits of gaps, and that's how we run ourselves.
I mean, spreadsheets rule the world, right? Excel is the number one app used by everyone.
They do, and it's very good. We do use Sheets as well.
Yeah. Well, free when you got to share them, right?
Oh, exactly. Sheets is better with the sharing, and we have a nice Google account that we do use, which is very helpful. Enough about accounting. No one, if you need to hear more about that, please come get to me another time.
So then how were you initially embraced into the game? Or are you still thinking about the clan?
No. I think Toreador's fine.
Okay.
I like Smeese and Gangrel as well. And I'm on a card, which is a Harbinger, but, can't have everything successful. Started playing in 1994. So I think started Magic on Revised. Oh, no, that's not even... Yeah. So Spellfire first, which makes no sense. Then Magic on Revised. And then the store in the town I lived at the time, Cheltenham, which is a lovely little town in the southwest of the UK. That little store, they got in Jihad boosters, which you don't generally use that word very often anymore, and swapped my initial Revised cards for Jihad boosters and starters, which was probably like 2 of each or something.
Wow.
And then, so obviously I had this fantastic deck, which was Nosferatu with, and at least had Roman Alexander in as well, because he had animism. So there was some random protein cards in there and the odd Nosferatu. Now, I ended up told anyone this before in a different interview, so you get to hear this one. In my folder of cards that has like my Jihad collection in, I've got a front page which has original Nosferatu cards and some original Gangrel cards with clan symbols, well, not clan symbols, but discipline symbols changed. So I've got like, Anglican ruled, who needs celerity when he can just have obfuscate? So he can obviously go much better than Nosferatu. That's useless. Yeah. Although it's probably a bit better than shadow boxing now. But yeah, I think I've got about 5 or 6 of them done like that. I don't know why. Felt like a good idea at the time.
I mean, I love it. I was a big Praxis Seizure collector when I first started, and then I lost a whole collection of them, had to restart it. I still don't even have it completed yet, and now I could do it the cheaty way. So
I'm sure I have probably all of them duplicated.
Yeah. So what's your favorite aspect of VTES then?
The people. I mean, that is such a corny thing to say. But it's really
very
true, right?
admin thing to say.
It's a multiplayer game, and sometimes that doesn't work. But like most of the time, it really, really works, and that's like the reason why I was very excited when Jan was like, "Oh, yeah, do you know Sebastian?" I was like, "Yeah, I played loads of games with him. Sometimes I've even ousted him." Like these years of playing with the same people. I've gone round. I say around the world. I've basically gone from North America to Eastern Europe. That's a fair distance, but I haven't gone like as far as other people have gone. But I've gone, from Los Angeles and New Orleans up to Winnipeg and Montreal to play cards, and a load of places in between, and from like Ireland all the way across to Budapest in kind of the east, right? Like it's not bad, and it's a fun way to get a bit of a hobby going. And of course, up to the north, I've been to Iceland, which was fun, and I can't think what the southernmost place I've been to play VTES, probably Alicante and Benidorm. I don't think I've anything tops that today. But like, it's a nice, interesting way of going to different places, meeting people,
Yeah.
and it goes with my other hobbies as well. So castles and beer. So it's very helpful.
Well, aside, go ahead.
Any places which you haven't ticked off and still have on your list, which you want to go?
Oh yeah, I would like to go visit some of the Central American and South American folks. So like Mexico or Chile or Brazil would be really good. It's just difficult. And then I've got family members, like I guess like most Brits, in fairness, I've got family members in Australia. I guess my family members went from a different place, but I still got family members in Australia. And it'd be nice going through like Singapore and Australia and New Zealand and catching up with some of those folks as well. And there's just one of the beauties of getting into doing the PDF sets and talking to lots of people across the world, and then actually printing cards and sending like Kickstarters all across the world. Like you just meet people and talk to them. So there's loads of folk that we know. Even like a store in Japan, a few people in the Philippines, etc. Like it just adds up.
So, aside from the obvious Knights of Reckoning, what was your favorite set in Vitesse?
Yeah, I mean that is obviously would be the favorite set. I think it's probably Sabat because of how it looks.
Oh, thank you.
Cards, really good stock, really dark and visceral.
Yes. Bring back that design palette, please.
Yeah, I do. I feel it's interesting. Like, so White Wolf had to make a lot of changes deliberately when they brought the game back. I don't know, some of it's good, some of it's bad. Like the cards are easier to understand and see.
Agreed.
They're still not like, if you're going to redesign a modern game from scratch, and you can look at that when you look at things like Flesh and Blood, Keyforge or Soulforge and all these other things, right? They're almost designed like a computer game interface.
Yep.
Maybe that's going too far, but they're designed in a really nice, easy way. And Vitesse is pretty complicated to look at, but there has been, when you look at the original Jihad stuff and up to where it is now, like there's been, nibbles, improvements all along the way to make it easier for people to understand. With the Sabat stuff, it easily looks the prettiest, I think.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's a good story. You get like fun. I remember trying to complete that and buying like a box and a half of boosters of it, and that was all I could get my hands on at the time. And then adding to it as time went on and actually getting it all done, which was great.
The Viken idea that you guys came up with was good. Being able to push through cards, circumventing printing them was nice for the time that it existed, but it was much harder to push the game without having something to market.
Yeah, that's good for everybody who's already got cards, right? And good for those of us who have enough of all these other cards. But you even find that with like playtesting, right? Asking people to print the cards off and put them in sleeves. It's just that you're making it a bit harder, so less of them are really excited about doing it or wanting to do it. Whereas if the card is available in like a small little pack thing, job done.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's been a long route, and there's been I don't know everything, but there've been like various different conversations by various different people in the background to try and either keep the game going or do other things. So there were definitely chats with Fancy Flight at one stage. There were other chats with probably other entities as well.
Yes.
Some of them might have been better. Some of it might have been worse. It's alternate reality time. That's what Stan Lee was good for. So I have no idea. But what we've got is what we've got, and try to keep building on that and get people playing more, really, and particularly those weird years in the middle, right?
Yep.
We started doing this in 2017, and it was dead straightforward. We're just going to do this one-off, get some stuff that we used to print back in. That's going to pay to get those PDF sets done. We'll do that, and then we'll work on doing like a base set over the next few years. And mainly, we'll do everything through print on demand, because that's kind of the way. And then I think it was only a few months into that there was people like, "Oh, can we get this in our store again?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, how do we do that?" "Oh yes, we can do that." It was just like a little bit more thinking. How do you make the numbers right? And then getting asked other questions about, can you do this? Can you perhaps do it in Spanish or French? Which helps in certain places get new players back into the game again. And I guess the question we probably get most now is, can we have a European print on demand? And it's like, well,
if we can find someone.
Yeah, it's probably a lot more complicated. Oh, hello, cat. So like fundamentally, most printers are like, "Oh, I want to print all of this stuff," and when you tell them about print on demand, they're going, "Oh, excellent! I can print all this stuff. I can go and store the excess stuff until it's needed to be ready." And it's like, no. Like some of this stuff, and that's maybe less true for Vitesse, but like, some of this stuff that is currently available on a drive-through cards, as an example, it's just like somebody printing their own family on like a deck of normal cards, right? And, they might want 10 copies at Thanksgiving or Christmas or something like that, or big birthday celebration. It's not designed to have 100 copies printed and stored in a storeroom just in case. That is fundamentally not the way that print on demand works. Another thing is like kind of postage for everything seems to be.
Yeah.
It was bad pre-pandemic and everything went up.
Yep.
People are shipping more stuff, and then when you have a business model that is designed to just ship more stuff, it does.
But what did the first steps towards starting BCP look like?
Yeah, that was interesting. So I guess we did all the PDF stuff. So like as a group at the weekend, so originally led by Johannes. We just worked on that for a bit. We got some stuff going. That gave us like, we like doing this. It's hard, relatively, like particularly the playtesting aspect, but it's fun. We want to do a bit more. And then we knew some people at Paradox. So I guess part of it was like right place, right time. So they were running a LARP back in Berlin in that, I guess, May 2017. I think we got asked in 2016 or maybe early 2017, because I wasn't on quite the original first couple of emails. But there's some questions about, would you like to do this set? And we're like, basically, yes, we would love to do this set. We did this anthology set. Ben did most of the picking of the cards. We got this 100 card set, and we generally do 90 cards now, and assembled it. And he tried to get a range of each of the different PDF sets we've done, plus some stuff that was really hard to get hold of, and a range of different artists. Like, it was deliberately spread to be a community-ish feel there. And we had to arrange printing that through a third-party company, because we were not a company at the time. And Vincent did most of the work with that. And it was a company called Participation Design Agency, who ran LARPs and other kind of event experiences. I don't know if they're still going, but they're very interesting people to work with. I think they're probably still around. Very helpful. And they printed, I want to say, like 5,000 copies of Anthology or something like that. Like a lot.
Wow.
And at the event, which included us picking up starters, because there were like 157 VTest players there, plus some LARPers, and lots of people bought multiple copies. But then and this was a nightmare, and there's many people I have to thank. Darbikini and Jesper were very, very helpful. We basically took lots of cards from there, went downstairs to, I think it was probably Germany, so probably be a DHL port or a Deutsche Post port or something like that, and we were just loading it into this thing, sending it off. Some of them didn't get there safely, so I know some of the US stuff got lost or broken up on the way, but the idea was we took these starters, sent them out around the world, got a bit of cash in for them, paid Participation Design Agency, everybody was happy, and then we were asked, we had a catch up then with Dahunai, who is still our business manager. She was in a slightly different role at the time, and kind of the other folks at Paradox, like Karim. I imagine him. I don't know exact job title, but he basically looks after the intellectual property. So when we're doing something a bit interesting and try to work on, how do you want to represent this clan in V5? How does that work with the Vita stuff? Or we're talking to him. So we met them, had a business case, we already prepared the business case. Probably started with that. Already had I'm an accountant. PowerPoint. Here you go. It's very exciting. This is first year. This will be the second year. This will be the third year. This is the Ferraris and the flights to Mars that we're going to go on. That's obviously not what the business case was about. The business case was about, this is how many people we think like the game. This is where we think it used to be. So we have a lot of tournament data. So like unique attendees at events. So we could go, well, this is where it was. We think we can get back there. This is what we want to release. So these PDF sets. So this was weird. So the PDF sets were going to be basically more or less the first release. And they came out in 2021, right?
They
were not the first release.
I thought was it that late?
I think
it was
so.
2021 or even 2022.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was the Kickstarter, so I think it's 2021.
Yeah.
And so the idea was those sets were we're gonna put them on Kickstarter, and we're only gonna do that, and then we're gonna use some print on demand stuff and move on from that. But we kind of flipped that round. So we figured out you could do stuff on print on demand, and then you could use that little kind of seed money. So we all put in some cash and some seed money, got some more cash there, and used that to reprint. I'm trying to think what was first. I think Heirs and Keepers were basically the same time, maybe.
Okay.
I'd have to go and check now. That's very embarrassing. And then Lost Kindred after.
You're not expected to remember every little detail of the timetable, so that you don't have the PowerPoint in front of you.
No, so we printed those, and then we had those ready for the next year at the EC in Warsaw, which was really, really helpful. So you basically, they formed a little company out there as well to help us sell it and work it. And it was just a really, everybody was so happy. And the funny thing was, everybody was happy, even though for a reason I'm not entirely sure. So one of the keeper sets is a couple of cards that are like blank or like half printed. There was definitely some issue between how we produce the PDF and you look at it and you digitally proof it, and how actually on one or two of the cards, but the black register is wrong. And we can't figure out if it's us or if it's Cards Monday. They reprinted those cards for free, so I think there's enough.
Yeah.
Probably asked, that kind of thing. So like people are opening those cards in front of us, like, we're all excited, and you see this blank Scourge of the Enochians, like, and then you go back and you talk. The first couple of things were interesting, like trial and error. Like, this makes sense. Why hasn't this worked? Like going back and explaining to Paradox about how we did this, and they're like, "Can you get like a hard copy print?" And then you show them the copy print you get, which is A4. So it's an A4 thing of an entire card plate. So it's 120 cards shrunk down. It's like, yeah, it doesn't work. Not real. I can do that on my printer at home, because you're basically printing the digital proof, which you've already seen as right.
Yeah.
Never mind. But yeah, a lot of fun. So many different people who helped get us there, because we didn't really know what we're doing. Like, so as well as all the VTest folks who have said, like, stop the game around the world, and helped us with advice. I also I was working in a credit card company in the UK, who are US banks, Capital One. I had a VAT manager there called Ian, who unfortunately died during COVID. But he was asking him all these questions about setting up a business. Like, I'm an accountant, but there's a difference between knowing in principle how you do it and the little weird things about do this, do that. It was so helpful, like having like advice like that. And I guess that's just something I'd like to put in here. Of if you ever want to set up your own business or run a business, there'll always be somebody out there who wants to talk to you and share what they did. And hopefully it will just be, some bad things as well, because like things go wrong.
Yeah.
So it's important to be prepared for things going wrong.
Well, on the note of things going wrong and difficulties, what kind of struggles exist between BCP's vision and Paradox's? Yeah,
this is an interesting one, right? So I guess we would always say we're aligned to their vision, because that's what we're trying to do, right? But VTest is been around 29 years now, or coming up to its 29th birthday, and it's had a lot of different designers, has a lot of different ideas, and some of those things don't make sense, even when you look at them from an original roleplay angle. Like your Anti-Tribute, I don't think it should really be a separate clan in the original kind of Wizards of the Coast, but they were. And then Bloodlines and Labon, there are different ways of doing those. Like Labon, I'm not sure I appreciate that. So you can see why, from a Paradox angle, if you'll try and make the Wall of Darkness something that's a bit more streamlined and straightforward, you've got some bits that are a bit weird. So for us, I guess we've done most of those weird bits, padding them out with those PDF sets. So we would have liked to have this PDF set in the stores, but not able to, because Paradox, very much the view of anything we've got in stores that's being newly printed should be kind of V5 compatible. It should be all aligned. So when you look at VTest, or you look at chapters that's now just come out to print, when you look at the RPG books from Renegade or Rivals, or some of the other games like Blood Feud or Vendetta or things like that, they're all aligned in the sense of this is how we want the world to look and how we want it to feel. I think sometimes that can still surprise us when we just forget something. So there are a couple of examples, and then they're not anything that's too concerning, but it's just like, oh yeah, that's why it doesn't quite work right now. So we wanted to put, I can't remember the exact name, Seat, who's the ministry mummy. Well, she's a follower of Set mummy, right? So we wanted to put her in one of the ministry decks, and she can't go in because mummies are not in. They're not being covered yet in the V5 world. So,
but is that card on the back burner though for maybe a later day down the road when Mummies clearly gets printed in 3 years?
Yeah, so she's obviously available on drive-through, so people can get hold of her. And she's in one of the Kickstarter packs as well, which have probably one of the aligned packs, I guess. Online 2, I think, maybe an online 1. Online 1 or online 2. So she's available, but she's just not in necessarily a deck where we would have gone, oh, there's a space for her there. So I think it's just things like that. And the other example was Shreknet. We were going to have Shreknet as, when we did the clan-based promos, and we had, I can't remember what we were now, but like Aching Beauty came out and a few others in that kind of little pack. The Nosferatu one in there was going to be Shreknet. And it's like, oh, it can't be ShrekNet.
That's gone.
Because ShrekNet got taken down.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah. So I think it's more bringing us up to speed. Like, I find them very good partners to talk to and help with. Like, they're very supportive. They give us free art. They advise on other artists to use. We help them. They help us, basically. Like, I think it's really good.
Okay, so like basically, aside from the print restrictions for that stuff, most of it has been positive for the community overall. Then
I think so. Yeah. Like this depends who you are, but we are able to print cards. So the other alternative would be we are
PDF release sets periodically.
PDF release sets, which are a mixed bag and things like copyright laws, anyway, all that kind of shenanigans. But like, not really what we're going to be doing. We'd rather be doing something like this where we can actually get it into stores, engage with new people, like Jan. It's just part of the fun, right? Like, the more people you can bleed. I was very lucky enough. I got to go to Brussels 2 weeks ago for a draft event on one day, and a Grand Prix on the other day. There's 35 people for the draft and 49 people for the Grand Prix. It's nearly going to be 50. It's going to be the perfect number. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, Belgium, lovely country, very easy to get to. But the last time I went to Belgium for an event, I think it was like 12 years ago, something like that. I did go earlier this year as well. But like 12 years ago going to Brussels, I think we maybe had like 20 people or something like that. So like seeing 49 again, and lots of those people there are people coming back into the game, which is great. But it's easier to do that with new cards. But a bunch of them were, again, new players or people who have only been playing 2-3 years. And the way to do that is to engage with the community by printing new things and just thinking about how do we make that work. So like Fall of London is, it's a good way of easily getting that storyline element out there and connecting with that kind of world. And at the same time, because it's limited, so things we think are harder to play test in general are discipline cards, right? The disciplines are chocker, they're full. They're not completely full. Like, there's still more stuff you can do, but like there's a lot of things in there, and there are people who are like, oh, if you ban more stuff, you put more in. There are other people like, if you ban more stuff, I'm never talking to you again, right? Like, it's an interesting line to cross there.
This was a question what we wanted to ask later on, but I think
sure.
How do you perceive the community? Like, I think there are a lot of different expectations to you, which you're confronted with. Like, I am a person who's playing V5 only sets. Like, whatever cards are out there, I just say I play V5 because I think this is the way to go. I think there's quite a nice streamlined thing, and there are clearly some elders which are the complete opposite. Like, we don't want to change it at all. How do you keep up with this struggle?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. Basically by talking to people, so we cannot please 100% of people. Or in fact, we can probably not please 10% of people. So that's a really important thing to recognize, right? So we've banned a few cards. We've banned 6 cards. We've got rid of disciplines in the game, and by got rid of, I mean we've not added to them, right? The disciplines are still there. We've changed clan names. We've tried full bleed in one shape or format. What else have we done that's probably contentious? And on the other hand, we've produced a full color rule book. We've got like a starter set. We've got little demo sets. So like it's like, this is why we tried to do it. Cards in different languages is another one. So they're really interesting. So for me, I find, because my brain, getting old anyway, I often use something like Codex of the Damned on my phone, just to remind me what Codex does. I sometimes have to deal with cards in a foreign language. So I'm like, oh, I think it does that again. I should really remember. Been using this card for 15 years, but like, cards have changed. So I think it's a really interesting opportunity for us. Like, always just talking to them, and we will get stuff wrong. So every time I go to an event, I'm sure the other guys at BCP, when we talked about this, kind of have a similar kind of thing. Like, you go to an event, people talk to you, and you get feedback from I love this, I really hated this, and anywhere in between. So it's just about taking that in, trying to use that to inform what you do next. And we do listen. We don't get it all right, and that's because everybody's got different views. So like, it is impossible to get all things right for all people. But we keep our best. I guess what we'll probably do from there is learning. When we release the Ravnos, Smith and Sluby decks, we'll probably have to try and figure out how early does he start doing like the reveals and the talk, because we want to get people excited about releases and get them engaged. Yeah. But at the same time, if it goes over like a month, it's too long. If it's like 6 weeks, it's definitely too long. Yeah. So there is a bit of that. So I think we just learn. Like sometimes we do get things wrong. So there's like a national coordinators mailing list. And I initially said I was going to do something to there every month, but like there's sometimes it's just the same stuff as on the newsletter, so I don't. Other times it's asking like a question. So like last couple of months, we're looking at who wants to host the European Championships in 2024. So it's like reminding people that's the thing. So I think it depends what we're doing. I guess I have two types of communication: either really quick and boom, or I don't do the middle bit so well. So it is about try and make that work. So yeah.
Well, then from that, okay, you got more follow up, Jan?
Yeah, just one more follow. For me, I meant like you put, for example, the picture of the foil cards like in the Discord, and so small information like this is something which I hadn't seen before so frequent. So is this something you try to do?
I think it's part of the channel, right? So like Discord is really, really good for that. Facebook isn't too bad either, but like so if you imagine, I guess there's a couple of things. One, Henrik's figured out how to link a load of different SOC community things, as he calls them, so we can do one thing in one, and it will cascade over like a bunch of them all at the same time. So that's easier for him. Like previously, and he must still be having to do some of this by hand, but like the newsletter, he'd have to go into each thing where like there's a load of people here, and you've got all these different communities, right? Because there's loads of people in the big community groups. But there's loads of people who using their smaller community groups. So he's trying to make that work. So Discord is really good for certain things, like particularly pictures, and to create like a bit of discussion, because you can have a chat about it there and then. And Facebook, you can do that a little as well. Insta, I don't want to look at that. There's some chat. I don't look at it as much, right? I mainly when I go onto it, I see loads of pictures of Kate and Star Wars Lego, basically. So it's very dangerous to me because there's loads of things that make me unhealthy or things that make my bank balance unhealthy. So it's like, I guess different people have different preferences, but like Henrik has spent a lot of time trying to figure out what works there, so at least for him.
And so the medium has helped as well. It's made it easier to be able to share things you want to share in the environment that you want to share that information with.
Yeah, we wouldn't have done like this kind of official Discord without Lionel basically going, you can do this, you can do that. And it's like, I've been on Discord for years, mainly as like playing computer games, right? Because like half of them moved off TeamSpeak, and it's like, well, that's all right.
Overnight, just about right, like or Mumble for those RIP Mumble.
Oh yeah, and this is just I don't know, it works very well. And like some stuff is a bit weird on it, but like people can ask questions and get really quick responses. And different members of the team will use it more or less than others. Like I think Ben, as an example, is on there quite a lot. So occasionally he'll see something which is like a weird rulings, and we've got little group WhatsApp. Actually, we have a bunch. We have like one group WhatsApp with the 5 of us, and he'll just bounce it or whatever. And that's just a very helpful medium.
So that's the only way you get Anka involved in answering rules questions is Ben has to ping him first, and then you get him over for a rule question. So that's a bad like joke at Anka, but he's doing a good job.
He prefers the forum.
I know.
Like different people have different means methods. Like Scott was everywhere. Example.
Problematically so, in fact, because there's rulings you're like that doesn't exist on Tom's hardware anymore.
Yeah, where's that gone? Yes, because it's gone. Yeah. Tom's hardware. So I think Pascal and Vincent were both more forum. And like to me, the forum is very much 20 years old. Like it's still really useful, but I prefer. Discord's not much better, but it is better for my purposes. And I can never log in on the forum on my phone. It doesn't work. It
used to be way better before you guys did the update that was not an update that like I don't know what happened, but it broke so much worse than before. But anyway,
but like the UK used to have its own forum on a separate thing, which is probably true of many people, right? Because I think some Germans and French
the Germans do have their own forum.
The UK one I would go check now, but I don't want to just in case it comes up with horrible music. It got porn hacked basically. So we stopped using it overnight.
That sucks.
We didn't lose. Well, we basically just moved to Facebook. I guess we lost all our threads. We have a couple of issues. Like there are a few players in the UK who still play who just don't use Facebook, which is a problem. Well, in terms of
we need an easy way to reach everybody at the same time. So when all the starting up for BCP began, did you have any experience before working with these sort of IPs? Either trying to build or rebrand?
No, I don't think any of us. We obviously knew the IP really well ourselves, but we did have people further afield. Like, I guess so. Like Mike is number 6, if you like, right? So he spent, I guess, best part of 20 years publishing board games. So he had experience doing that. We had, I'm based up in Nottingham, which they call the Lead Belt in the UK, right? So it's full of Games Workshop, Mantic, Warlord, various other different games companies, Foundry, I don't know which one's still going or not. So you've got all these people who work in a creative environment, doing different things, and many of whom I've known, talked to over the years. So stuff like that. And I think that's probably similar with other guys as well, without speaking for them. So I think there's a lot of ideas. And when the kind of the VCAN in a circle, if you looked at the idea from a company, so you're Orion involved, Johannes, a bunch of other people as well, and we talked about who could do what would people like to do. So there's a lot of sharing about this is how we've got here, these are the things that have nearly happened in the past. As an example, one thing got so far that Ben had built a load of these are the decks we'd probably use. I'd looked at them a bit as well as the playtest coordinator or whatever at that stage. So we'd got that far down other routes. So we'd got the stuff. I guess things that were different. So Paradox, big company. When we started dealing with them, you had this White Wolf imprint almost as a separate mini thing, which is far more, I think, integrated now. And that was just perhaps a bit different for us. But, each quarter I fill in a royalty return, I send it to them. I sometimes give them I tried to give them, certainly over the last year's worth of quarters, give them a little paragraph of this is what changed or not changed. And a big reason for that is because they look at 2021, which was a huge year due to the Kickstarter. So it looks like we're selling less stuff since actually we're selling more underlying.
Right.
But yes, that was a big thing. So try help them understand what we're doing, why we're doing things, where tournament players are. And tournament players are not by any means all the players. I don't even know what percentage they are, but I'd guess a fifth or a quarter based on rule of thumb of other games.
Right, and product that you have moving, I'm sure, shows something different as well.
Does help, yeah. So try use that as this is what we think we are, this is how we think we're doing. So no, basically learn that bit.
So a lot of metrics gathering has been kind of learned on the fly.
Yeah, I think this is probably perhaps different to other games companies where we have picked up first time someone else's IP. But if you look at some of the people doing stuff with Paradox, it is again, we have this idea, and more or less the first thing they're doing is using some of this IP. So I think that's probably because they're more interested in working with somebody who gets the IP rather than necessarily somebody who can just take their skill set and try and cram the IP into that. And sometimes there's the beauty of both worlds, right? Where you've got, some companies they've been working with on the RPG side who've been doing stuff for a long time, so know the IP well and know the market very well. So I think it's pretty good for Paradox that way. Just a bit of luck.
Okay. Well, the next segment of this is near and dear, especially to Jan's heart. So I think I'm going to put him in charge of asking these questions because I think he would really love to know the answer to most of them.
Yeah. As I just said on a side note before, V5 is something which is close to my heart. And I even got Steve to making the V5 tournament. I don't know if you recognize or just realize we had one. How many months ago? 2?
It was in June, if I remember correctly. The next one is at the end of this month. The end of this month.
Next Sunday.
Yes, next Sunday. Yep. No, this coming Sunday, or Saturday, the 29th.
Yeah. So if you want to join,
Lackey.
Yes. Yeah. Over Lackey.
On next Sunday.
Yeah. This coming Saturday, the 29th. Yeah.
Maybe depends how. So our year end is the 31st of July. No particular reason. Why did I choose then? I'm not sure why I chose then. You can move around a bit as well. I think it's just because we started off the company in July, so carried it on. You can move around a bit. So it depends how much paperwork I get done. My paperwork, it's all in Excel.
Yeah.
Oh, fine. If you have time, we'd be happy.
We'll make a V5 deck, right? You just take 2 starters, put them together, crush all the opposition.
A little more than that, as we discovered.
For me, as I said, I just build decks by V5 cards only.
V5 in forward cards. So he's talking about anything that is part of the new...
Yeah. Like V5 Anarchs, the promo, just new blood. Because I think I really like the flow of the game, which I perceived from the setup you made. So do you have a special goal in mind, how you want to get the game feels?
Oh, that's interesting. I guess so. The V5 environment. So this is based on assumptions. I think would be a bit faster by itself. like it's designed. So the game is 2 hours long, right? Which is great because you get to have lots of experiences with each other, but it also can be bad if people aren't dying after 2 hours. So the nice thing about V5, and part of this is how disciplines have gone. Everybody's got donate or presence, apart from Nosferatu and Gangrel, but like Gangrel can just about do it without anyway. Nosferatu, I'm sure we'll figure something out for them at some stage. So the game is faster paced. People get ousted, and that's kind of what you want. Ideally, like the ideal game would be you play like 1 hour 45, and then 3 or 4 people get ousted, and then game ends. But you want it to happen quite quickly, and so it's like a fun, vibrant experience. That's me. Okay, that's not going to be for everybody, but that's what I want. So with these decks, we does a lot of time just playtesting like that box set. There's the original 5 decks against each other. They're not perfect, and the new ones I think are probably a bit stronger. Like part of that is just feeling a bit more adventurous or a bit more exciting, and then fixing some of the issues that we had already seen as well. That's kind of the angle. I think I would expect it to be a bit faster, a bit easier in some aspects. There are some cards in the game which are a lot of fun to play. There's 3,500 cards in there, and some of them are really, what's the best way of describing it? Just a mess, right?
Yeah, bauble.
Like, some of them don't make any sense. And so that goes from cards that are not well designed for whatever reason. Like Guard Duty is one of those, where the card does not function how it should function. Coterie Tactics and Wing Seconds are 2 other cards there that don't function. Well, actually, they just can't function. You cannot have a 3-way vampire fight in Rage, sure, you can do that in Rage. And in Rage, it was broken as well, which is why they tried to fix it with this is how we should do that through it. I don't know, Jan, if you've ever seen Rage, was a Werewolf Apocalypse game back in by White Wolf, and there was a reboot afterwards as well, which is Las Vegas, Rage Across Las Vegas, which plays differently. But I don't know, the game looks really pretty, but I don't know, like you try to play a duel, you try to play a multiplayer game, you can play a multiplayer game like say 4 people where you can have no interaction with each other at all. Now that's not normally how it happen, but you can have like one person going for the equivalent, because you're trying to get to a point today. So one person going for the votes to do that, one person going off into the Umbra, so the kind of the dream world, one person killing victims, one person killing enemies, and you can have no interaction if you want, which is
similar to L5R had some of that as well. A lot of different ways that you could win a game that were not interactive at all, especially in a 2-player game on top of it.
Yeah, which is some of the, I mean, going back to the thing where we talked about like what's my favorite thing about V-Test, it's the people, is because it is interactive. And sometimes that can go wrong. You had a long day, you're getting ousted, you're annoyed. But like most of the time, it works out really well, where you're having a fun experience, and you're dying to like Brian's bleed deck for the 17th time. But it's like, next time you'll get Brian, probably.
You just said how your idea of V5 would be, and I think you announced in Office blog a short notice that there was a discussion about ongoing with the NC. If I'm informed correctly, so did you reach a consensus?
No, but I guess reaching consensus with a group of about 30 people is basically difficult. So no, I'd say no consensus reached. But I guess for different reasons, right? Which are quite hard to overcome. So one of those reasons is, you're releasing this, so you get rid of, you're going to ban Nefertiti and True Love's Faith and all those cards that haven't reprinted. It's like, no, that's not the point. The point is that you already have shops, it's mainly shops, running V5 events or trying to run V5 events. And they try to do it through the limited channel, which is like, you can do that. You can do that for anything. Like you could run a Sabat only thing through V5. But it's just too unwieldy. So this is like, this is a thing to do. It's there as an option. So it's like, it's adding, it's not taking away. So that's the really key thing. Not remove any cards. All of the big events, I imagine will always stay as all cards being available apart from the small ban list of 15 cards or whatever it is, right? That's what I anticipate. So I just need to print that really and get that inserted into the rules. But I'm trying to do the rule book first. I should be really clear. The rule book is fine, but we've got one typo, maybe a couple of other typos. One main typo where we missed off +1 stealth, and a little bit of clarifications and suggestions, from Lionel and others, and we can't use all of them. Some of that I think I'll just have to disagree with. Complicated, but it's the same deal, right? You get 8 different people look at it, and I'll be like, you should do this. It's like, no, you should do this. It's like, I'm gonna do this. This thing in the middle. Sometimes it works better. Sometimes not.
And
so yes, I do need to finish. We've basically got it, and it's I think pretty much what you've done. So everything that's got V5 on it. So that's the box game, the 4 starters after that, the 3 starters that are coming out shortly, the 4 new blood that come out shortly, the 5 new blood that already exist, the Fall of London, the Shadows of Berlin, Promo Pack 2, not the weird cards in there,
Right.
but Promo Pack 2 apart from that, and Promo Pack 3. I'm really sorry about Promo Pack 2. That clearly wasn't the plan to do this like that. And then each new release will just basically, nearly everything we should release in future should just be V5. We did do this test of Echoes of Gehenna, and the reason for that, I guess, is like a European problem. Like, drive-through is really, really good. And without that, we might not be printing stuff, right? Or we might find it really difficult, or things would cost more, or whatever, right? Like, it's a good way of making stuff available for people. But it is harder if you're not in the States. And in some places they don't seem to ship to, or it's difficult, like Brazil, or I think Australia is currently not non-shipping as well.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit harder. So the idea of trying this was like, okay, we have to do it direct, but maybe we can get that out to people. And the Gehenna event, well, those ones are generally useful ones that people have missed. Or they get told off for not including everything in there. And it's like, people keep asking me, like, why is unmasking not in there? I was like, unmasking is in Anthology. It's already available.
Yeah, go buy one.
Someone was like, well, I need 14 more copies. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Play fewer ally decks. It's Vampire, the Eternal Striker.
Hey, but I mean, you guys made Knights of Reckoning was made, so like it's not clearly meant to just be vampires, right? That was by design.
That's Knights of Reckoning with a K at the start, right?
Do you have any plans on banning Imbue, by the way?
I get asked that every so often. I also get asked by other players, can you please not ban it Imbue? I guess one of the reasons to have like a V5 taunt set is for stuff like that, which is even for players who've been playing the game a long time. So we had maybe a couple of players in the UK quit over imbues. Like, I think that's probably true everywhere to some degree, right? Like, people got really, and that's fine, right? You're allowed to do that. That's your feelings. But I think about when you've got a table of 5 players and you're playing something that's complicated like that. So when I went to Seville this year, on one of the tables, my Predator was playing imbued. But it's like, that's okay, now how that works. I can deal with that. But other people are like, and the cards are only in English, and their English was pretty good, but I was playing with 3 Spanish folks, and the Portuguese guy was playing imbued, I think, and it just makes it a little bit interesting. I don't know. I think that they're well down the list of things we'd ban. So what's more likely to happen is we just won't print them.
Yeah.
So they've not gone up on drive-through, and I don't think, if we had to list things that wouldn't ever go up on drive-through, they're probably in that list. I'm not definitive because I might change my mind, or someone might say, please do this.
Somewhere down the line, 10 years, somebody might just finally decide, you know what, it's time, it's okay, nobody's playing them anymore anyway.
Yeah, I kind of get what they're trying to do at the time, but it was interesting playing it. It was interesting playing decks. I didn't play any of the I didn't play the really abusive ones to start off with. I think I only really started playing abused ones Edge Explosion had gone, so I'm a good person.
From a joke question about banning to a bit...
Oh, that was a joke.
I do have a special relationship to Archon Investigation because I've playing V5 only. It feels like it's a card with a huge impact, burning a vampire, and now you brought the Archon Investigation promo, so
it's in.
It's got officially.
Yeah. So all the Grand Prix and all the fancy promos we've done after what was the ones that don't count? So there's 2 promos I can think of that aren't V5, right? Well, one of those was Tangle, which gave away in the States at one of the NACs, and the other one is Hex Wrinkles. Same principle. I think everything else is V5 on the promo list.
Wow.
Ignoring the reprints in Promo Pack 2. Oh, and Promo Pack 1, which doesn't really count. That was the Humble Bump.
Yeah.
But I think all the single ones count. Because all the Grand Prix ones do, because you had Tear of Souls, Charisma, the other card I've now forgotten, Entrancement. So they're all fine. I can't think of any promos we've... Oh, then there is another one that isn't as well. So we have got Practice Seizure Venice as well, and that can't be V5 because it mentions Divine.
Yeah, but this is something which I need to think about.
So I guess after investigation, right? Yeah, the way to think about it is it's 28 years old. That doesn't necessarily mean it's right? Like Temptation of Greater Power was 24 years old or whatever when it got banned, and that was one of the most broken cards the game's ever seen. AI is a defensive card, so that makes it less problematic to start off with. That's because you can avoid it, right? You can bleed for 3. You can vote, you can crush somebody, you can bleed for 6, and you go, okay, my vampire's dead. This other one's going to bleed you for 6 as well. You can't AI both of them. There's lots of different options there. I think it's needed as well. Like getting back to Nosferatu, so trying not to be mean on Nosferatu, but they're going to be slower with most of the decks out there in the same setting, right? So there are obviously Nosferatu with Dominate, there are Nosferatu with Auspex, and you can do things with Princes and Primogen and Animalism, etc. But that takes longer to get going and set up. So you need cards like AI as a potential. I think when we look at promos that aren't in V5, no. All those single promos are not necessarily in V5. Really good point, because direct intervention is a single promo, right?
Right. I feel like that
other sketch version. So that would probably, I have to think about that. So if we put that in a normal deck, yes. So I guess with AI and Charisma and Entrancement and Tear of Souls, I should really focus and stop mumbling. Those will all go in normal deck.
Okay.
So those will be in normal decks, which is why that AI is fine.
Okay. But DI is still not necessarily a confirmed card. It's still in negotiation.
Yeah, I guess so. As a group of like 5 of us, which is a nice helpful number for voting,
ties. Yep.
If you like. So if we're going to think about if you're going to reboot the game, which we're not doing, to be really clear,
correct,
that's not happening.
Yeah.
If the game was going to re-exist, and you're going to imagine cards that are most destabilizing to the game, I can see why you can have AI on a list that's reading in the top, because I'm calling this favour or whatever, right? That's part of the game. The issue I have with it is actually mechanically. So you're playing a table with 4 or 5 players, and we're talking about this at the Liverpool Grand Prix with Orion and Vincent and Pascal came out to talk about, and we talk about like timing of things like that and things like Eagle's Sight. I guess part of it is how your playgroup plays it. So most playgroups are fine. It depends what the card is, but it's like, I wanted to play this card, right? It's like Scott was really, really good, I think, with how he rule things. And like it's all about, keep the game flowing, be friendly to each other. Mm-hmm. You're not trying to be an idiot by playing too fast deliberately so somebody can't cancel your cards, right?
Right.
But I think that's where it does have an issue. And Eagle's Sight as well as an example, right? And other cards that are either cancelling or interrupting out of the normal chain. So they do have a bit of an issue there with how they interact, particularly when you're down to 2 players. It doesn't matter, which is why you look at something like the Gathering of Magic. It can do stuff like that because it doesn't matter. You're just interacting with Bob and Charlotte are interacting.
Well, no, it's still you still have to deal with the stack, right? And you still have to deal with priority. So that's the way they handle it. And V-Test tried to implement priority in a similar way. But you're right, DI and Eagle Sight and similar cards can interrupt even that natural flow and do something completely different, because the literal timing on Eagle Sight is after everybody's said no, you then get to jump back in real quick and say, like, okay, now I get to play a card. Which,
well, not if you said no, but if the normal people have said no.
Correct.
So it creates an interesting dynamic. Yep. So I don't know. And it's cards like that which you'd probably leave out of V5 for as long. You'd give it longer to mature as a block of cards. See how new players are implementing it, see what you like. It's quite interesting hearing your feedback about the AI, because I've been playing with it for so long, and back when it was released, so in Vampire the Struggle as the unlimited version of Jihad, I don't know, decks were nowhere near as tuned as they were even 5 years after that, and then like now it's even ridiculous. So people were bleeding for high amounts every so often and multi-bleeding, which is bad, but like it was not anywhere near as problematic, I think. But then you've got other things in the game, right, to try and counteract that, like I guess you can do Redeem the Lost Soul. It's not a great way of doing it.
No.
You've got bleeding out of turn, which is probably another thing. Like it's really similar kind of impulse priority angle. So I don't know. Jury not out. There are some people who play who are like, no cards any problem. There's other people who are like, a huge list of cards that are a problem. And my view would be there's probably somewhere in between. There's definitely cards that. So one of the other cards got asked, why didn't you reprint this? And Echoes Ken got asked this 2 weeks ago. Why didn't you reprint Veil of Darkness? And it's like,
that card's a nightmare.
It has the same issue, yeah. Like for someone who knows what they're doing, if you're willing to play it and you're willing to police a table like that, which isn't actually a good idea in a multiplayer game, it's social interactive, because it makes people just want to get there and get rid of you because you're talking all the time and getting in the way. Not great.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I'm not, as I said, I just not too amused because
I think you very much so deflated Jan unintentionally.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no worries.
I think it's...
For me, the main thing which annoys me about AI is there's nothing I can do when it's my turn to do as a counter because it is a master.
Yeah, it's the bleed for three answer. It's supposed to be a speed bump. It's supposed to be a thing that's there to make you think, like, do I actually want to do this? I join Jan in the camp of believing that, like, AI is not exactly the right answer, but I understand that, like, coming up with what the real true answer is would require a committee probably working for years and a lot of play testing, a lot of understanding. And AI just works to fill that gap so much easier than trying to find whatever the better answer truly is.
I think the better answer, and this is... like, it's not going to work, would be to remove deflection and/or govern conditioning from the game.
I have advocated for that for years, but no one wants to hear that as the answer to that question.
not generally. Like, and it's a really weird problem now because so many more clans have dominate. Mm-hmm. So does that make it more balanced, or does it make it less balanced? I don't know.
Well, according to other card games that do more active bannings, seeing a card played in more overall decks on a percentage basis is grounds for banning it when it exceeds a certain percentage.
Oh, we've definitely talked about that before, and that has come up. But like Scott, I love what Scott without actually seeing inside his head. But like, I can see what he was trying to do with like Vestal and ULN. Like, he was looking at how often Blood Doll and Minion Tap were turning up, and he was thinking about, oh, I need to, do this thing. I think with hindsight, there's not the approach I would do. For a start, you made both cards trifles, which is so master cards are already strongest card type in the game.
Yep.
You then added trifle, and that'd be fine if the trifles were bad. So like, I don't know, a Bombway. That's fine, having that as a trifle. That's more than fine. Really good idea. Or etc. Having all these trifles, no problem. Having Villain as a trifle, like particularly the original version of it.
Yeah, so suck all the blood, Giant's blood.
Yeah, I abused Lilith's Blessing quite a lot before it went. So I'm very,
To continue the point, you said Nosferatu might need a help or just might not be the strongest or the fastest clan right now out there. I think Protected District is a new card which you introduced with V5, and it pushes also the role of Primogen, which has not as many cards right now. Is this something, is the role of Primogen and the Nos something which you want to push further? Like make more cards which go with the title of Primogen?
Yes, basically. So there's I know it might not happen, right? But we talked about doing different things, and there's I guess there's like a camera design document which we were going to do, and it's got some ideas in there. It's like from Mike and Ben principally, and some of those might come up. We've just been doing other things instead. So we've been going, actually, let's go all the core 13 clans more or less out, do those, and then we'll go back to this kind of supplementary items, like where we can get supplementary items in other decks. And obviously most of the clans we've been doing since have been Alex or independent, so it's not had the right opportunity. I think Protected Districts worked quite well, relatively well anyway. Like, it's still, it's not an organised resistance, which is probably even better, but like, you don't want things to all be the same. So I think there will be more looking at what works, what's the way to go with these things.
Just the last question for maybe Steve can just talk again. How is V5, the new 3 starters, how are they coming along?
New Sabat.
Yeah, so totally not Sabat.
Yes.
So Sneath, Slavery, definitely not Slavery Anti-Review in there as well, and Ravnos, who are totally not Sabat. They're done. So Ben has done all of his work with the little playtest groups and with Mike and Humanist, and art is basically done, and the box sets are done. We did have a bit of let me just double check, I believe, so we might have to rework some of it in terms of like artwork or designs. That goes to printers in August. Now, so this is ridiculous. Their print times basically crept up to 16 weeks. Now, this lot has taken 5 weeks as New Blood to print, which it should not do. So I'm going to guess if it goes to print in August, it will probably come out in November. So I'd expect a more normal time frame of about 10 weeks.
Okay. Cool to hear that it has reached the point that it is off. I'm excited.
Yes, it should be good. There's going to be obviously a lot of dominate. There's 2 classes of dominate, one with presence. There's going to be a lot of bleed in those street deck.
I'm excited to see the changes. Very excited to see the changes.
How did you cope with the another?
Well, yeah, I guess it depends who you are, right? Like, for us, we knew it was coming. Like, in terms of like, we'd seen So the amalgams, I think, really interesting. So like, I would say getting a bit better each time. I quite like the miniature ones. Like the miniature ones, I quite, I've enjoyed seeing them and playing them so far. The Ravnos ones, I think we have to see how much people feel that it imbues the kind of the old powers of chemistry. Like it is different and it is not the same. The Salubri one's really complicated because you're merging essentially two disciplines into kind of one. So I think they'll basically need one lot of like, here's your initial stuff, and there'll be more design work in future to add more bits to it.
So you plan to do the like new blood booster packs, or just for the three clans as well?
Yeah, and they weren't so far not really put any or not many new cards in a new blood pack. So it's kind of deliberate, right? Like if you don't want to buy them, you don't need to buy them because there's only a couple of vampires. Yeah. It's supposed to be like, here's some cool reprints and here's some maybe an additional strategy. So like, I can be a Toreador vote deck more. Here's some bleed cards instead, so you can actually be better. Or here's some Tremere, go get some equipment and do cool stuff. Try to give them different options, and it'll be similar with the ones coming out shortly. Hopefully you've seen the deck list of those, and it'll be similar with these ones. I think they have started on drafting them. I think what we might have to do is wait just to see. You almost need to see what going from a playtester group of like 100 people or whatever, or seeing cards, do like another 500-600 regular tournament players seeing the cards, giving feedback and try to break or use some of the cards, tells you a bit more what's needed. So yeah, that's the idea, and then try and fill in the gaps with more stuff.
By more stuff, you mean since you're against imbued? I assume though that doesn't take Thin Blood off the table since it's kind of close. What's the deal with Thin Blood?
So next up, before you get anything close to Thin Blood, you get Carter and Sombra, and then genuinely Sabat try to figure out how to implement that RPG in an interesting, meaningful way. Because obviously you've got a lot of paths there, and how do you keep it? How do you make the paths interesting?
On a just related-ish question, like, what is the plan? Are you guys planning to? Has it been discussed whether or not anti-tribute is officially going to get axed as the term, or is that still in negotiation?
I don't think we would ever print anything, so I don't think we'd ever print like a Tremere that was anti-tribute. I think we might print, say, a Tremere that's in Sabat, or a Samish that's in Sabat, right?
Yeah. I
think it works in the RPG, it didn't work in the card game because they're not separate clans. That's the most, so I love Sabat, I love how they look.
Yep.
But it is probably the most frustrating aspect of being trying to unwind that, because that shouldn't be there. That's definitely my view anyway.
I would agree largely in a lot of cases. I think it feels like it exists only for the purposes of like very specific fringe masters, and then it was kind of like we can't figure out an easier way, so let's just do this.
Yeah, I mean, we'll look at the original ones. I can't think of anything that's that different. I don't know. I mean, some of the clans are completely the same, like Nosferatu anti-tribute, and if you gave Nosferatu Kingdom to normal Nosferatu, I think that would be fine. You don't need Twisted Forest and Backways at the same time, so that's fine. And Gang of Conspiracy, I don't know, maybe that's a bit weird, but yeah, I guess it is what it is.
Yeah.
So we'll get these lovely new blood sets out, which is very exciting. Probably, so they should ship this week from Poland, which is exciting. They do move our factory around every so often, which is sometimes confusing, but they should ship this week, and it'll take a week or 2 weeks to get out to everyone, which is pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
We will then probably have a short break and then start playtesting on Hecata and Sombra. So Ben might the whole of August more or less planned out of catch up, work on this. That'll just be 2 decks, I believe, is the idea. So it should be a bit easier. And at the same time, so they're going to do something slightly different, I think, there, where they will try and sort of design new blood for them in parallel, or at least maybe, so what we've done with the new blood vampires so far, we've just basically gone, well, this is a person RPG, it fits like this. We have an advisory group, we haven't done proper playtesting of those vampires, which is, it's sort of okay on vampires to a degree. It's not perfect, but I think we might try and get these guys tested a bit better, just in case, or at least see how it combines, what does it give you overall. And then after that, we will have kind of new blood for the other folks coming out as well, and all into Sabat, and we'll try and figure out where we get this storyline in that I briefly talked about, so that like a little mini, this is what we're aiming for. But yeah, the idea is do this little storyline, test some cover cards we thought were making changes, maybe make some ideas of how they work better, or integrate them with some of the existing archetypes for those cards. Do that as a storyline, so non-official. Maybe have it up on drive-through. We do look at a European print-on-demand printer as well, as I've mentioned before, and maybe see how those changes work. I think that's quite a good way to test stuff. We've been using a lot of kind of volunteers as well as so every time we do like a new print-on-demand set release, there's a little group of maybe a half dozen people which we pass around, get comments, ideas, what's working or not working. We're trying not to, for cards we're not going to reuse, so cards that aren't going back into the wider pool, if you like, we're trying not to edit it too much, right? So we are, if a card's overcosted by like 1, we might reduce that price by 1.
You might change when pool is burned for a specific ally that is already a little problematic in nature for cost.
Well, I mean, those are separate things, so there's still kind of testing on the background.
Okay.
For stuff that we've talked about before that might be problematic. So like master phases in general, Asher liquidation, Emerald Legionnaire. We've got a lot of playtesting of different options on those that have come back. In terms of whether or not we change any of those, that's really a lot down to kind of powers of instinct. Think about that kind of playtesting feedback we've had. What's it good with? What do we want to do with it? And it's not straightforward. It's a bit of a funky one. We thought we did change 1 by 2. Did we change it by 1? I'm just looking at some of the cards we changed.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of the Abyss was an example.
Right. Herald of Topeth had that timing change.
That was fun. Well, it's to make it more consistent, I think.
Yeah.
It does matter a little.
Oh, I love it.
Basically, making it infernal seemed a bit easier.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it then. Unless, Jan, you have anything else?
I think you wrote also current policy on Vita's art usage.
Oh, yeah, that was a separate question. That didn't necessarily have to come in here. But
No, it's worth sharing here. So we, many years ago, when the VCAN was formed, Robert Gowdy got an agreement from Wizards of the Coast. Basically, that they could do various things and use art on websites outside the game, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that carried on under White Wolf, and it's basically, with a bit of discussion with Paradox, is still there, right? They've got slightly different setup with a dark pack, so you should ideally be using that dark pack logo. You should look at what you're allowed to use the promotional work for. So like common things that we've talked about which are acceptable, got to be careful but are acceptable. Again, I don't have an example with me, which is unhelpful. But like a playmat. So like a lot of people have done their own playmats for events or t-shirts. It's like keep it non-profit, follow those rules. There are things they probably would not like to see on cards, or like artwork used. So just think about that. What would you like in a modern game store, basically?
Yeah,
it's maybe part of that. Not sure how else to phrase that. That kind of thing, right? Don't diminish the property, add to it.
Right. Okay. Excellent.
I got one last question which came to my mind. You are doing full art promos now, like quite a few in the last few weeks and months. Is there any reason why you're going for this route?
I guess promos are interesting, right? So like people like promos. It helps encourage them to turn up to events. Sometimes we get told off if we make a promo and it gets stuck for other reasons. Like Coyen's probably the most obvious example. Coyen was going to go into promo pack 5, as I'm now mythically called it. I don't know what it's actually called, but it's the next promo pack. And Cayenne will be in that promo pack. The problem is that promo pack was supposed to be like 2 years ago. And that promo pack wasn't 2 years ago for reasons. So like Gabriel is going to be in that promo pack. I say is, like we've not actually run the print across Paradox, but the idea of we know what's going to be in it. It's one of each of the V5 vampires that were ready to go in it. Just they got extended delay mainly due to COVID over like many years. So doing promos with partners, we will probably continue to try and do them where we can, but just conscious around the timing of that. So if like things get delayed, it becomes more problematic. The bleed artwork, I guess you're adding something that's pretty, well, I don't think they're pretty, but you're adding something to the game that's pretty interesting, a bit different, and it doesn't, you don't need that card to compete. So I guess Cayenne, I don't think you need that card to compete. It does really help that Gangrel Baron's Wallish deck, right? But it's not actually needed, but it does make it better. So I think that's the biggest difference, right? Trying to avoid too many promos that people want to use it, versus they want just because it's pretty and it's nice to have and use it, but like there's a difference there, subtle one perhaps, but yeah.
I did actually have one last thing that I realized that I would like to ask with one of the questions you answered a while back. In Shadows, Wahlberg was reprinted. Is there going to actually be more outside of the Group 6 and ahead that will come back, or was that just kind of he's in a thing that needs reprinting and this is the best way to do it?
There's definitely Hughes there and he's reprinting.
Okay.
I don't know. I wouldn't. I guess the we go back to the Unaligned in particular, you've got a bunch of vampires from there that have been reprinted, like, Apollonius, classic one, and that made sense, right? So there aren't many holes in those, so you're printing advanced copies for alternate versions. So there aren't really, you can't add like a whole new crypt. Well, we shouldn't add a whole new crypt to them. Depending how much you think grouping matters, or it does not matter. Definitely matters for some crypts more than others. So yeah, I can't see us doing many more of those. It's just really like, well, you're on group 3, you just get there.
Okay. Well, that deck will never make it into V5, sadly, but
yeah, I mean, he's still got some fun.
Oh yeah,
friends, but yeah. And I guess part of the issue as well is to like, when we talk about artwork, like a lot of artwork doesn't exist anymore, or is not available. Like some of his friends, I guess he's a group 3, so he's not so bad. But some of his friends, the artwork's either lost, it may be unclear exactly where it belongs or where it is, like particularly some of the original artwork, or probably where there's like at least one artist we don't ever work with, if we can avoid it, and there's other artists that we can no longer work with for various reasons. Like some artists,
some of them are gone.
Died.
You can't use Christopher Rush as an artist anymore, so yeah.
So it's nice where stuff is available, you can still celebrate that, but like it's you've got so many folks out there who need some you can support, and they can support you, and it's probably a better way of doing it.
Yep,
if you can.
Agreed.
And originally artwork was the really, really scary thing. It's like on the pricing thing where I think we're probably slightly ahead on average, kind of hard to tell, but basically paying like €250 or something like that, a piece of artwork, and that adds up quite quickly.
Yep.
Like Fall of London is very helpful that it sold out like that, because like, it does pay for itself. Because that had, apart from the fact that Paradox and Diffus gave us a load of that artwork, because it's V5 artwork, that would have been very expensive mini set.
Yeah. Well, if I start a petition at some point to get Wahlberg to be 3/6, don't don't take offense, but
you might have to find. I've still got the open petition for Angelo, who should be probably any. Like, there's no reason for him to be group 3. I think it would be 4. It might be 4, but like that feels to me like an error.
Yeah, I just want to play him. There's so many good Primogen. I want to play him, but
brilliant.
Alas.
Well, thank you very much.
You got anything else, Jan? Or
no, just wanted to say thanks to you.
Yeah, this has been. Go ahead.
Save up more questions for again. That's right.
This has been a huge honor. I really appreciate getting to ask you these questions, getting to pick your brain about some of the stuff. I really thankful for the stuff that you guys have done in all of making sure that this game continues to live on in a way that it deserves to. Being stuck in PDF print runs is very sad, and it deserves better.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. See you all soon.
Yep.
Look forward to hearing it.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.